Read everybody the Ray Combs biography. Ray Combs, born Raymond Neal Ray Combs Jr. on April 3rd, 1956 to June 2nd, 1996, was an American comedian, actor, and game show host. Combs began his professional career as a stand-up comedian in the 1980s. His popularity on the stand-up circuit led him to be signed as host of the revival of the game show Family Feud. The show aired on CBS and was in syndication until 1994. From 1995 to 1996, Ray Combs hosted another game show, Family Challenge. Beset with marital and financial problems, Ray Combs hanged himself in the closet of psychiatric ward of Glendale Adventist Medical Center, where he was being held for observation in June of 1996. Now we're going to talk about Ray Combs' early life. Ray Combs was born in Hamilton, Ohio. He graduated from Garfield High School in 1974. He was an actor, senior class president, and Boy State delegate. Ray Combs declined a nomination to the United States military to serve as a Mormon missionary for 2 years in Arizona. Now we're going to talk about Ray Combs' career. Ray Combs began performing comedy at Cincinnati Red Dog Salon, where he developed his best-known shtick of audience sing-alongs of sitcom theme songs. In 1979, Combs sent a letter to David Letterman asking for advice. The comedian encouraged him to continue in comedy. In 1982, convinced that he was better than others, he saw appear on The Tonight Show. Combs quit his job as an Indianapolis furniture salesman and moved with his family to Los Angeles. He did well in a competition with more than 200 young comedians and began doing audience warm-ups for sitcoms such as The Golden Girls, Amen. Johnny Carson heard the audience's laughter and then invited Ray Combs to perform on The Tonight Show in October of 1986. The audience gave the comedian a standing ovation. In 1987, he appeared as a celebrity panelist on the John Davison version of Hollywood Squares and had a small role in the comedy film Overboard, starring Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. In 1985, he appeared on an episode of The Facts of Life as a background character. Around this time, he also guest starred on an episode of The Golden Girls. Now we're going to talk about Family Feud. In 1988, game show producers Mark Goodson and Howard Fletcher gave Ray Combs a 7-year contract to host a new version of Family Feud. The program premiered July 4th, 1988 on CBS's daytime lineup, and a syndicated version was launched 2 months later on September 19th. According to Family Feud announcer Gene Wood, Combs also toured extensively around the United States to promote the show and made guest appearances on Card Sharks with Bob Eubanks and The Price is Right with Bob Barker. To discuss the new version of Family Feud, on June 29, 1992, CBS expanded the daytime show from 30 minutes to 1 hour. A new bullseye round was added. The show was retitled Family Feud Challenge. On September 14, 1992, the bullseye round was integrated into the syndicated run, which remained 30 minutes in length, but was renamed as the new Family Feud. Ray Combs was one of the most seen MCs on television during the 1992 to 1993 season, within an hour and a half of Family Feud, airing 5 days a week. Midway through the 1992 to 1993 season, ratings for the show began in plummet. CBS canceled the daytime version in early 1993 and ended on March 26th, in parentheses, which reruns airing until September 10th, 1993. As many CBS athletes had dropped the show entirely by that time, the syndicated version was also in danger of cancellation, as many stations had already dropped the syndicated version entirely or moved it into overnight time slots. Jonathan Goodson, who became chairman of Mark Goodson Productions after the death of his father, Mark Goodson, a year earlier made the decision to replace Ray Combs with Richard Dawson in hopes of spiking ratings by all accounts. Ray Combs was hurt by his dismissal from the show. His final episode was taped sometime in February 1994 and aired in first-run syndication on May 27th of that year. While his final episode of Family Feud seemed like any other during his final Fast Money bonus round, the 5 answers given by the second contestant each netted 0 points. Combs joked, I've done this show for 6 years, and this is the first time I had a person that actually got no points. I think it's a damn fine way to go out. Thought I was a loser until you walked up here. You made me feel like a man. After signing off with the end credits rolling, Ray Combs immediately walked off the set, went to his dressing room to get changed, and left the CBS Television City facility without saying goodbye to anybody. Got into his car and drove home. Now we're going to talk about Ray Combs' other appearance. Ray Combs also made an appearance for the World Wrestling Federation as a guest ring announcer at WrestleMania 8, where he assumed the capacity crowd at Indianapolis Hoosier Dome by lashing into the team of the Nasty Boys, the Mountie, and Repo Man with various scattering insults before being immediately chased out of the ring. He later served as a guest commentator alongside Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan at the Survivor Series 1993 in a match between the Hart family and Shawn Michaels and his Knights. These two also were also met with various WWF and WBF celebrity editions of Family Feud. Heenan and Combs already struck up a friendship, with Heenan recounted in his autobiography. Nothing that he believed that Ray Combs felt demeaning by being a game show host. Ray Combs also appeared as himself in episodes of In Living Color and 227 in Family Feud sketches, and made an appearance on the TNN television series The Statler Brothers Show, where he did a stand-up comedy routine. In October of 1993, a Family Feud video game was released for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis consoles, within the game host resembling Combs. Now we're going to talk about Ray Combs' decline. In July of 1994, Ray Combs injured his spinal disc in a car accident which left him in permanent pain. He also went through financial problems after his 2 comedy clubs failed and his home in Hamilton, Ohio, within into foreclosure. In September of 1995, Ray Combs and Debbie, his wife of 18 years with whom he had 6 children, separated. The couple declined but later refiled for divorce. Ray Combs made several attempts to revive his television career, including taping a pilot for a talk show called The Ray Combs Show, which immediately was not picked up. He also hosted Family Challenge from 1995 to 1996 on the Family Channel. Ray Combs also made a number of appearances on GSN, the game show network. Approximately 1 week prior to his death, Ray Combs appeared on television for the last time, live on Memorial Day edition of the Home and Family Show with Christina Ferrer and Chuck Woolery on May 27, 1996, where he talked about his experience while hosting Family Challenge. And now we're going to talk about Ray Combs' passing. On June 1st, 1996, police were called to Ray Combs' home at 1318 Sorno Avenue in Glendale, California, over reports of a disturbance. Combs had reportedly destroyed the inside of his home and had also been banging his head against the wall. Shortly after police arrived, Ray Combs' estranged wife Debbie arrived, and police informed that Combs was suicidal and had spent the previous week in the hospital for a suicide attempt. He was intervalgally admitted to the psychiatric ward of Glendale Adventist Medical Center in Glendale, California by the police and placed on a 72-hour mental observation hold. Early the next morning, Ray Combs fashioned a noose from his hospital sheets and hanged himself in the closet. Ray Combs' funeral was held on June 7, 1996, at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-Saints Day in Glendale. His body was flown back to his hometown of Hamilton, Ohio, where he was interred in Greenwood Cemetery in Hamilton, Ohio. Combs was survived by his parents, Ray Sr. and Anita Jean Combs, his wife Debbie, and their 6 children. And now we're going to talk more about Ray Combs' death. Unbeknownst to Combs' widow Debbie, He was deeply in debt at the time of his death at the height of his career. Combs was earning close to $1 million per year, but reportedly difficulty managing his money. In addition to his two failed comedy clubs in Hamilton, Ohio, Ray Combs owed $100,000 in back tax, $150,000 in loans and credit cards, and had $470,000 mortgage. The family's Glendale home was foreclosed on, and Debbie was forced to sell off some of her husband's autographed photos and celebrity car cues. A benefit was also held at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, which netted $10,000 for the family. Johnny Carson, who had give Ray Combs his first break in the show business, also sent Debbie a check for $25,000. Well, that's my biography on the late Ray Combs. I'm Grigor Bailey. I hope you enjoyed the video, and peace out, guys.